now we're going to go ahead and do a deep dive into the final phase, Phase 3. During Phase 3, students who have 1, completed their first semester of CE classes or have completed 12 or more CE credits, and 2, are in the spring semester of their junior year of high school, and 3, intend to complete their general education certificate of completion or an associate's degree at the time of high school graduation or shortly thereafter, will be provided information by the high school counselor about how to transition from MyCE using SLCC DegreeWorks so that they can track their progress toward the completion of that degree. They'll also be provided information about financial aid opportunities at SLCC, as well as the process for graduation. Now, I want to point out one thing here on Phase 3. Phase 3 really is for those students who are very serious about achieving that goal of earning their certificate of completion or their associate degree at the time of high school graduation or shortly thereafter. Students who are just dabbling a little bit, created an academic plan to just, test the waters, try a few classes here or there and see how they fit, don't necessarily need to enter Phase 3. So you will, in all likelihood, have very few students that end up in Phase 3. So that said, let's go ahead and take a look at what is involved in Phase 3. The counselor really only has 2 roles in Phase 3. First of all, after receiving a prompt from SLCC, which would come from the advisor that's assigned to your high school, you would determine which students fall into the Phase 3 category, or which ones are eligible to enter Phase 3. Once you determine that, you would give them information about how to transition to SLCC DegreeWorks, information about graduation, and some financial aid resources that they could then use as they transition to college after high school. We'll walk through each of these tools in just a second. The other counselor role in Phase 3 is that if the student has any questions that you can't answer as the counselor, then you simply direct them to the SLCC advisor that's been assigned to your high school. So let's go ahead and jump over to the checklist and see what all is involved in Phase 3. So we'll go ahead and scroll down here until we get to for students entering Phase 3. And you'll see that the first thing is to verify that the student is a senior and has completed at least 1 semester of concurrent classes and has performed well and has developed an academic plan in MyCE. Now, before I continue, let's actually jump back over to the slideshow for just a second because there's one other thing that I forgot to point out. So back here on Phase 3, you'll notice that number 2 says are in the spring semester of their junior year of high school. The reason for that is because when a student transitions over to DegreeWorks, it'll run a check to make sure they're on target for graduation. If they run that check and they realize that, oh wait, I hadn't submitted some of my AP scores and they're not recorded at SLCC, so I'm not getting credit for that. Or they look at it and say, oh, I thought I had completed this requirement, but I haven't yet. Now they've got a whole year to make corrections so that they can stay on target. There's nothing wrong with a student moving into Phase 3 as a senior, even if it's during the spring semester, their last semester of their senior year. They can absolutely move to Phase 3. But the problem with that is that they won't have much time to make corrections if they've made some mistakes along the way. So it's a good idea to identify juniors who are working towards building an academic plan in MyCE during the spring semester of their junior year, so they have plenty of time to course correct when they run the audit in DegreeWorks to see where they're at. Okay, let's jump back over to the checklist. So the second thing on the checklist is to assess if the student is on target to achieve their academic plan. So you as a counselor can take a look at their plan in MyCE and just see if they have been making good progress and they're on target. If you notice that they've missed a few things, it might be a good opportunity to sit down with the student and just find out how they're feeling about continuing to work on their academic plan. Again, like I've said before, this academic planning program is designed to be completely flexible and fit your needs, your time constraints, and your own way of doing things there at your high school. Next on the list, if a student has planned to complete their certificate of completion or associate degree prior to or at the time of high school graduation, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen, you can let them know that that is totally okay. There will be plenty of time and opportunities after high school graduation. So what you can do as a counselor is give them information about the CE transition tuition waiver. There's a link right here on the checklist, and that'll give you all the information that the student needs in order to apply for that waiver so that they can continue their education after high school at Salt Lake Community College. The CE transition tuition waiver is a $1,000 tuition waiver that's spread out over 2 semesters, so they get $500 per semester. But the great thing about the tuition waiver is that if they apply for it, they're sort of put in the bucket for a whole bunch of other tuition waivers. So what they may end up doing is applying for the transition tuition waiver, but they might discover that they actually qualify for something even better that will pay their entire college education for their associate's degree. So that's a great thing to direct students to look into if it doesn't look like they're going to hit the goal at the time of high school graduation. Also, I should point out that the deadline for the transition tuition waiver is February 1st. So they need to make sure they apply for it by February 1st. Next, if it looks like that they are going to complete the certificate of completion or associate degree at the time of high school graduation, then you want to give them some information about what do they need to do in order to graduate and get their diploma. This link right here will take you to the graduation checklist, which gives a student exactly what they need to do in order to ensure that they graduate with that certificate or associate degree. The next thing that you'll want to do is introduce them to the SLCC DegreeWorks tutorial and then invite them to follow along in their own DegreeWorks account, and they can either do that with you or they can do it on their own time. And in a second, I'll show you where you can go to find those. There's a link right here, but in a second, I'll show you where a student can go to find those. And finally, as they work through DegreeWorks, if they have any questions that you can't help them with, then refer them to the SLCC advisor that's been assigned to your high school, and they will help answer any of those questions. So now let's go ahead and jump over to the Concurrent Enrollment website, and I'll show you where a student can find all of these resources and information. So here on the Concurrent Enrollment website, a student will come down and click on the advising link, and that will take them to this page. As they scroll down, they'll see step number 4, Junior Year Plus, Spring Semester Check-In with your counselor. And right here, you'll see a button that takes them to the DegreeWorks tutorials. So the student would then watch this video, follow along, and in the end, they will have generated a degree audit in DegreeWorks, and they can see whether or not they're on target to achieve the goal of earning their certificate of completion or associate's degree at the time of high school graduation or shortly thereafter. Now let me show you where you can find some of the other resources we just talked about, the graduation checklist and the CE transition tuition waiver information here on our website. So let's go back to the Concurrent Enrollment homepage. We'll scroll down here to the counselor section, and then we'll scroll down and go over to Advising Resources. Here under Phase 3, you'll see a link to the CE Transition Tuition Waiver website, and this will give you all of the information you need to know about the CE Transition Tuition Waiver. A couple links down, you'll see the SLCC Graduation Checklist. This will download a Word doc, and you can print this off and hand it to the student, and if the student goes through and checks off each of these items, they will be on target for graduating with their certificate or associates. And that is everything that you need to know as a counselor to guide a student through Phase 3 of the SLCC Concurrent Enrollment Advising Program.